How bad will this odd year be for the Giants? As they pretend that they are still somewhat competitive by trying to throw out contracts at a lot of other players, this should probably be another rough season. So, number 22 out of 30, let's get it. Who they brought in was Drew Pomeranz, 1 year, $1.5 million. Stephen Vogt, Youngheris Solarte, and Gerardo Parra are all minor league contracts. All are on minor league contracts, that is. And then Drew Ferguson and Travis Bergin, both Rule 5 draft picks. In terms of who they lost, Gorkis Hernandez goes to Boston, Gregor Blanco goes to the Mets, Hunter Strickland to Seattle, Hunter Pence to Texas, and Nick Hundley across the bay. They also re-signed someone, Derek Holland, 1 year, $7 million with a 2020 club option. So one player that isn't an unrestricted free, or that is an unrestricted free agent re-signed. And with their lineup, nothing too special. I mean, Evan Longoria already started to decline in 2017, and he will probably continue to decline in a ballpark that doesn't fit his hitting style. And speaking of ballparks that don't fit hitting styles, Brandon Belt needs to go away from Oracle Park to perform better, at least to me. And then Buster Posey, he got injured last year, but still doesn't put up the same power numbers that he used to. Joe Panik has only had a few good seasons. Stephen Duggar performed well in the minors, could do well with more development potentially. But a lot of the young wave guys, like who they had, Gary Brown, and they also had Kyle Crick, they didn't really pan out for the Giants in general. Joe Panik was also one of those young riches, supposedly. It hasn't really panned out, and that's what sort of hindered them. And then there's also some guys like Brandon Crawford, not a guy to count on for offensive production, at least not anymore. I mean, he only had a couple of seasons with some pretty okay offensive production. And then Mac Williamson hasn't done much. Parra, only known for his glove, only a couple of highly productive offensive seasons. And then on the bench you have Rene Rivera, just to back up Pablo Sandoval, not what he used to be. Youngheris Solarte, though, is a utility player. He performed well in the first half, not so much in the second half, but could be pretty solid for them. And then Alan Hansen, field top prospect from the Pirates, and Drew Ferguson had some good stretches in the minors, but is also being thrusted into the fire as a Rule 5 draft pick. And then, speaking of minors, Aramis Garcia, gonna have to see more out of him. Stephen Vogt, though, once a solid hitting catcher, and now he's with the team that he once wanted to play for. Breivik Valera hasn't shown anything. Donovan Solano, only an extra fielder. Ryder Jones was on the map because of his good 2017 season in AAA, but we'll have to see more out of him as well. And then Chris Shaw and Austin Slater both look like they could be good pieces. And then with their rotation, Madison Bumgarner still performs, should be traded though. Jeff Samardzija was battling injuries, but is only a number 3 pitcher, which isn't bad, but he does have a pretty sizable contract. And then there's Derek Holland, had his first good season in a couple of years. Good old Oracle Park, right? And then there was also Derek Rodriguez. He had a really good year, but should have a sophomore slump. And then Drew Pomeranz, sketchy pitcher. In general, just sketchy. And then some starting pitcher depth. Andrew Suarez performed better in Oracle. Like I said, good old Oracle. Always a good ballpark for pitchers. And then Tyler Beede provides some skepticism in upside. And then there's Jose Lopez, could be okay, and Sean Anderson, I don't have high hopes for him. And then with their bullpen, Will Smith still performs really well. Mark Melancon, not closer material anymore. Tony Watson, key contributor in the pen. Oracle boost, of course. And then Sam Dyson, he stepped up in the second half really well, actually. And then there's Reyes Moronta, he showed some dependability. Bergen, like Ferguson, maybe thrusted into the fire a little bit too soon. And then Chris Stratton fell off hard and moved to the bullpen, because he used to be a starter. One of the other guys that was one of the supposed riches of prospects, along with Tyler Beede, and it seems like they were a bit overhyped. And so now their bullpen depth. Ty Black performed better out of the bullpen. Ray Black underperformed his FIP. Jake Barrett hasn't been that good in limited opportunities. And Trevor Gott was supposed to be good, but hasn't really panned out that well. And then Josh Osich, not good. And so now we tally it up. Lineup, C-. Hitting depth, C. Rotation, B. Starter depth, D+. Bullpen, B-. Bullpen depth, D+. as a whole, not a roster with any sort of depth, at least when it comes to their pitching. Not any sort of depth anywhere, and their lineup, pretty unimpressive. And now with the coaching staff, you have Bruce Bochy, one of the better managers that should head to the Hall of Fame. He will be retiring at the end of the year, so, I mean, congrats on a fruitful career. And then there's hitting coach Alonzo Powell, different philosophy than what suits their ballpark. And Kurt Young did a solid job in his first year last year, and Matt Hergis did a good job with some pitchers last year as well. And so their manager gets a grade of an A-. Can't hate on Bruce Bochy. And then hitting coach C-, pitching coach B-, and bullpen coach B. Overall, pretty okay staff, if you ask me. But the hitting core, not what it used to be. And then there's Johnny Cueto, likely out for all of 2019. I mean, he could probably see the end of his career. He started to revitalize himself last year, as I thought he would, because he just fell off of a cliff and had a really bad season in 2017, and that didn't really make much sense. But he's likely out for the entire 2019 season, so not looking very good. And so now with their schedule, we start off in the NL West, of course. They face the Diamondbacks 9 times at home, 10 times on the road. Same goes for the Dodgers and the Padres. And with the Rockies, it's the other way around, 10 times at home, 9 times on the road. And now with the rest of the NL, they face the Braves 4 times at home, 3 times on the road. Same for the Mets, Phillies, and Pirates. And then they face the Cardinals 3 times at home, 4 times on the road. And they're the only team that they face like that. The rest 3 times at home, 3 times on the road. And for interleague play, they're going to go back to being owned by Oakland 4 times a year. And then they also face the Blue Jays 4 times this year, twice at home, twice on the road. And then they face Baltimore for a 3-game set in Baltimore. And the same goes for Boston in Boston. And then they host the Yankees and Rays for 3-game sets apiece. So as a whole, pretty difficult schedule. Facing the AL East isn't going to be easy. Facing the NL teams isn't going to be easy either, was how a lot of the teams are looking right now. But overall, just a team that is going to have a bit of a struggle because you're going to have to beat teams in your division. That's really what's going to have to boil down to. You're also going to have to do well against the Marlins in those 3-game sets. But otherwise, not looking like a very good season. And so now we get to some very generous record predictions. With Bleacher Report, they have them going 66 and 96. I don't think that's generous. I think that's more of what they probably should go. And then there's Rado Champ 73, 89, Fangraphs 76 and 86, and then Pacoda same as Rado Champ 73 and 89. The over/under is 73. I'm going under, and I think I'm being generous in my own right by saying that they're going to go 70 and 92. Because although this pitching staff is still has some guys, it's very top heavy and they don't have really any sort of depth anywhere. And like I said, this hitting core, not what it used to be. They don't embrace situational hitting anymore, which doesn't make sense because that's what you should do when you're in a ballpark like Oracle Park. That's how you won your 3 World Series titles. And as a whole, their so-called promising prospects have just turned out to be smoke and mirrors. So in some trouble for the next few years. But otherwise, it's gonna try to not to struggle to close out this video. So personal on top, YouTube on the bottom. You know the drill by now. And that'll do it, of course. I think I will be saved from having to go over poor takes with this team being one of the teams included of being poor takes in a few months.